Wake your ass up
or take a damn nap.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
It's time.
Sean, you were twerking. That's going to happen.
Murph, don't be a dick all your life.
It's one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're not talking about sports in the man cave, I better not say you're not a man.
That's it.
You know, it's very rare that we have return guests, but it is created a family and stories inside the Man Cave podcast. And this guy, I've been a fan of his from day one when, honestly, I knew about him before I met him in 2017 at a golf tournament. And Brandon Puffer was one of our first guests when this thing all began back in 2020. And today, the reason why he's here, not only because he's just a cool dude and it's a good guy and love his story. He's here to inspire us all. But at the same time, we mentioned something in that last episode that was a goal, and now it's become a reality. And that's what we're going to talk about in this first segment of episode 230. Brandon, 3 years, a lot has happened. But since you were last in this episode or on this podcast, a lot has happened, even more so combined in those, almost 3 years now, 2020.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely, Sean. Well, first off, thank you for having me, man. It's an honor. I always love hanging out with you. Man, I appreciate you having me back. And to your point, yeah, one of my big time bucket list items or goals, if you will, was to publish a book about my story. And, I'd been nudged by a few different people and kind of felt led to do that. And then, I teamed up with a group that's what they specialize in. They held me accountable, held my hand through the whole deal. And now we have a book. And so from the bullpen to the state pins out, and I'm just getting a lot of good feedback. I mean, the sales they are what they are. That's just icing on the cake. It's just encouraging people. And I've always said, if I can encourage one person with my story, I'd do it. And the book seems to be doing that. So I'm excited about it, man. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
You know, it's always a great story. And, we live in such a society that's so judgmental. But at the same time, people who are judgmental, what I've learned, they're dealing with things because we're all dealing with things. And that's what I've learned, and not to take social media seriously. And before we dive into this, I definitely want to give a shout out to our segment one sponsor, as always, Honest AC and Plumbing. They're based out of Hutto, Texas. And right now, we're off and on between the AC. We use the heater a lot. If you haven't had those maintenance, it's probably a good time to do it. But plumbing may be your concern because we're coming out of these freezes. Get those checked because they have a great department. And we appreciate the guys at Honest who have been with us since day one. How I really want to get into this first. So Brandon and I, it was funny because when I ended my 21-year sportscasting career and in the last 6 years at K-View here in Austin, he and I teamed up finally. It was my last story ever. It literally, I think, aired on my last day or second to last day. And we both poured our hearts into this story. And so Brandon spent a long time up and down, World Series champion, Red Sox with the Astros organization, up and down like so many in this great game of baseball. Dealt with addiction, overcame it. And then I want to let this little snippet of that story that we did kind of make that transition and to lead to the book, From the Bullpen to the State Pen. Here's that story that I'm talking about. And it's just an excerpt of it. And it brings back great memories because of what we're about to dive into. And to Brandon's point, we want at least one person to be inspired that it's okay. We are all dealing with something, but this is a part of Brandon's story right here.
Then he received that call.
Got my first shot with Houston in
2002.
But Puffer ended up back in the grind of the minors and experienced one bad night while with the Frisco Roughriders, the Texas Rangers AA affiliate.
I remember Chris Davis, Elvis Andrews, Derek Holland.
He was the older guy on the team and had experienced problems with alcohol in his past.
I told him several times, Sean, I said, guys, I could ruin my life in one night.
And that's what happened.
Drank too much, had a blackout.
A felon convicted of burglary of habitation with the intent to commit sexual assault. When Puffer arrived at the state penitentiary, it dawned on him his life was about to change.
And those bars shut, kind of said, okay, this is real. It was only then when I surrendered that I found that peace.
It's powerful, and I know that's not the entire story, Brandon, but every time you and I have talked about it, when I've seen you speak to young people, and when we talk about it, even when we're just having coffee, I get chills about it. And I'm not exaggerating, because this world, especially in America, I like this. We're a forgiving society, and we should be. Second chances are necessary. How do you pick up from where that story left off to where we are now?
Oh, wow. Gosh. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, Sean, the chapters write more of a redemption story now, which is just awesome, man. I mean, it was the case at that time too, of that story. And it was just so cool to do that. Have that be one of your last pieces was awesome. I remember your predecessor was there. You're kind of training her, Emily, at the time. And just, yeah, man, it was cool. I remember it vividly. I really do. And so, fast forward, I think some of the things that have changed is just continuing to grow and mature and kind of dive into this mental health space that really I feel like led to my downfall, my addiction. We're always trying to numb things, right? We don't want to be in our own mind if it's overactive or if it's telling you things that you don't want to hear. So we numb it, man. We got that God-shaped hole in us, and we just keep throwing stuff in there. So I just continue to try to work that process. By the grace of God, I'm still sober. It's been 15 years now. 3 years since that story, our GPS group has grown. We're able to just reach and touch more families. And then the book, I think the book has been the biggest change. That's one of those things that just hung over my head for so long. And now that it's out, it just really frees me up to leave that legacy for my kiddos, and the story, just sharing it on a different level has just been amazing. And so, I'm about to be married on Monday, as you know, and it's just, God has just continued to redeem me. And I always am so quick to say, it's not like my life is all of a sudden perfect and I don't have any of the same old patterns or thoughts, or, I mean, they're all there, man. Every day is a grind for all of us. But if I get up and I hit my knees and I'm in prayer and I'm in the word and I'm meditating, doing all the things that really provoke positive actions for me, then I just continue to see him open these doors. Right. And so, and again, sometimes it's a couple steps backwards and some days are better than others. But at the end of the day, like you said earlier, just trying to encourage folks with my story, be very transparent, very vulnerable. And I have just found encouragement from others who have done that. So I'm trying to kind of carry that torch for other folks that have done that for me.
And before we continue, because we're going to make a jump to dive deeper into the book, just in case people were not aware, you can now find the link to this podcast on hornfm.com. 1049 The Horn is where you hear the horn, but hornfm.com, scroll down, hit the podcast link. I think it's a white box with lettering like you see at the top. It says podcast, pretty simple. And you'll see us amongst the family of podcasts that they have listed and links for. And that's, for us, that's a pretty big honor as we hope to continue to grow. It's people like Brandon Puffer who really make this podcast go. The genesis of this, you've kind of alluded to it. And, everyone learns and gravitates to graphics. I'm one of them. I'm ADHD. And I love, I have to have a visual all the time. This is when the book was released a few weeks ago, and I'll pull this off. So this is pretty much it when, you can find the book on Amazon. And as we talk about, if you could really relay to people who are Amazon users or Amazonians, I guess they call them, but people, we're all Amazonians.
I was going to say that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are frequenting it.
Yeah.
What would be the heaviest hitting chapters because I feel like, and maybe I'm biased because it's not about a love for baseball.
Yeah.
We gravitate to people who are like us. And like us, we're all sinners. We're all people who make errors, but we're always seeking. And I'm a seeker. I'll self-admit it. I'm a seeker, just like you, Brandon.
Yeah.
And what chapters, and I'm not telling people to skip chapters in this book,
Sure.
but what chapters of this book do you think really resonate and people can relate to?
You know, on the relating aspect, it's probably going to be more along the lines of just the chapters where I talk openly and honestly about my mistakes. But what I would say, if you were going to read too, and I know you're not saying that, but let's just say that, I would say the foreword. It wasn't written by me. It was written by Rick Warren, who sold over 52 million copies of Purpose Driven Life. And just the honor of him doing that and just kind of sharing the word. He's since retired as a pastor as well. So it's kind of one of his last things in terms of, writing a foreword is powerful. And then chapter 9, man, we close it out and in inning number 9, come in and go Mariano Rivera on him and just talk about God and his grace and how you see that faith. And for seekers, how does that look? And how do we reach out? And I just think that is the most powerful chapter. And actually feedback that's been given to me, a lot of folks are like, man, chapter 9 really brought it home. And so, yeah, man, the forward, what a blessing for Rick Warren to be a part of it. And then that chapter 9 that really breaks down, the grace and then the faith aspect of the story.
That there's always a life lesson. And this that transition in your life in Frisco, Texas, to the penitentiary. And one way of looking at it is, well, it ended a career. Well, that's how hard it is. And if you, just something I want to say, that how hard it is to make it to the show, being MLB from the minors. It's hard to begin with, but to your point, you alluded to it. You had a different, I feel like God had a different plan for you, but this happened, an unfortunate incident, but at the same time, how does a Brandon view life now? And you mentioned it in your book, compared to maybe how you would handle adversity when that happened.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Sean. And people ask me all the time, would you change anything? And I absolutely would not. The only thing I would change is the pain I caused other people through my decision, through my choice. And I just want to be very intentional about saying that, because I would take that away. But in terms of what I had to go through, in terms of, just being in prison for 3.5 years, self-reflecting, the cognitive intervention that came after that, I think it's exactly what I needed. And because to your point, it ended a career. And that was a career that I put everything into. And by everything, I mean, it is a very selfish pursuit. Honestly, it just has to be, because it takes everything you have to make it. And then you're trying to stay, and then it's just never ending. And so what it did for me is it took my eyes off of me, off of myself. And in fact, the very first words of Rick Warren's book that we mentioned earlier is, it's not about you. And I never understood that until this happened to me, because it was about me. It was about my career. And if you ask my family, everything was, how's Brandon? How's baseball? How's baseball? And it was my identity. By all means, it was my identity. And so my plan before that night, before September 13th, 08, was I'm going to finish out this ride, maybe pitch till I'm 40 if they'll let me. And then I'm going to be a bullpen coach in the big leagues. And I had it planned out. And with perseverance, consistency, I believe that would have happened. I really do. But I would have just stayed in that same frame of mind of selfishness, gone from my family all the time, my career, how do I advance, that kind of thing. And so what happened was, when I went and had to really reflect and met some folks that were locked up just like me, that just made bad choices, that were really, really good people, it just gave me a heart for people. Yeah. And now I look for, how do I serve others? How do I get outside myself? And I'm still selfish by nature, egotistical, prideful by nature, and I have to check myself all the time, man. But at least I'm willing to check myself now. Before it was, nothing's getting in my way. I'm going to the top. You can't stop me, da-da-da-da. And now it's like, yeah, still pursue things with that kind of ambition. Love that. But know that it's something you do. It's not your identity. You're here for a different purpose, a different reason. And so baseball gave me a little bit of a platform. And then what I needed was humility. To break it down to one word, Sean, humility.
Yeah.
And I learned humility through that, what happened, and always remind myself, I don't live there. I know now that I can do some great things with, support and perseverance, but never forget, like, you're never too far away from that crash and burn, that poor decision, that phone call you might get that puts you on your knees. And so I just, again, I think if I had to break it down to one thing, I needed humility, and that's what happened through this choice.
We alluded to the path you took. And from, when I met you, you were still well on your way climbing a mountain. And and I feel like now you're at that pinnacle. And when I met you, you were in a previous marriage. But I look at that as part of the journey.
Yeah.
And like me, like we all can relate. We've had relationships we wanted to work.
Yeah.
But we know that they're not, we don't know it. We figure out the answers, but do you see that along with other relationships with people in general, like myself and other friends in what I like to call the hashtag baseball family?
Yeah.
They're all individuals who have helped you seek your destiny.
Definitely.
Would that be the best way to refer to that?
100%, Sean. Yeah, absolutely. From the support system of my immediate family, my parents, my brother, my children, amazing. You alluded to, I've recently been divorced within the last couple of years since our story.
Right.
Same with that person, the support of Lisa and the girls, of Haley and Ashley, to support me through that time is a very big part of my journey. And I never take that for granted. Unfortunately, we're human, and relationships sometimes don't make it. And I'm not a proponent for that. I mean, you definitely want to dig in and stick it out the best you can. But sometimes you have to let go of something for God to put something else in your life. And that's what ended up happening with us. And so, like you said, when you're in it, you don't expect it, but you look back and go, wow, okay, that was part of my journey. And that was for a season. And marriage shouldn't be for a season. I hope no one hears that. I'm saying, yeah, marriage, hey, it's take it lightly. No, by no means. But unfortunately, another failed marriage. I mean, that's after being saved. That's after all these cool things that have happened post prison and redemption. And it just goes along with, hey, it's just not going to be perfect. It's messy. We're people. And so that was a part of that. But yeah, to honor those folks that were in my life and a part of my story and believed in me is huge. Yeah. And I absolutely do see that as part of my journey.
I think there's many reasons why we connected, and our friends and other people can say the same about you as well. But because your story, although I didn't live the same story, I have been through a divorce myself and multiple failed relationships. But now I see, I guess because we are older, but because we allowed faith to take over our lives, it helped me realize that those happen for a reason. And for stability up here for me, those happened. They helped me along the way. I could be angry. We all could be angry, but I've never seen 1 ounce of anger in you because of how transparent you are about everything. And that is all part of this book.
Wow. Well, thank you, Sean. I think that comes down to another lesson I learned through the hard time, through the incarceration, the adversity, was that there's a big difference between peace and joy that nobody can take from you, and happiness. Happiness was if I had a good outing. Happiness is if we won. And so when that doesn't happen, now what, right? Peace and joy was, I'm in a cell by myself, or mopping or cleaning toilets in prison, or God forbid, and seeing some of the surroundings and things that were going on. Being able to keep peace and joy through those times really is what now allows me to go, okay, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. And God's opening some great doors through the story, and being on here with you, just different things, but it doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect, but how you remain peaceful and have joy. And I think that's where a perspective, a shift, and kind of the lens you look at things through is where you get, okay, I can go through those things, and there's not going to be anger, and there's not going to be, discord and discontent. And some people will view me that way. I'm not responsible for their feelings. I mean, there's folks out there that come at me, Sean. I'm telling you, man. I'm like, geez, what's the deal here? but I'm only responsible for how I feel, how I treat others, and I fail in that regard too. But for the most part, just try to be an encouragement. Every day I get up, I feel like, man, I've got breath in my lungs. I've got another day. God has to have a plan for me. What is it? Just show me it. And then the biggest thing I've realized when I lay my head down at night and go, okay, take inventory of this day is, was I able to encourage somebody with a smile or a kind word or a tweet or a message or whatever? It might not be going on an awesome podcast like this that day, but it might just be I ran into someone and shared a little bit. And so that's my whole goal post this whole event, is just being an encouragement and using my story to do that for others.
One thing you did allude to that's tied to all this, you mentioned the acronym, or the three letters GPS. For those maybe watching outside of the Austin area, across the state, or other parts of the country, and there are a few. I see you guys in France and Trinidad, Tobago. I see you in the analytics, but GPS is a select organizational youth baseball association for multiple age groups. And in the interview you and I did back when I was at KVU, and you still do in our conversations, you get emotional about them, because Gavin Wright, who is part of this group, and it's just amazing. My ties to him are from Lufkin, Texas, back in my second job in that former career, way back. And then now here we all are. And then I meet you, and now we're here. It's just a cycle of life of connections. But the GPS program, how have you been able to utilize that? That program is to develop young men through baseball. But what has it done for you? As far as I know it's not for you to benefit. You're the guy who has poured yourself into that. But let's be honest, we're human. There's some kind of gain that's not financial gain out of it that helps you through your lifelong rehabilitation.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It's GPS Legends is something I never set out for. I never envisioned. I never wanted to, quote unquote, own a program or I'm just a coach, man. I really just am a coach that loves encouraging kids, loves pushing them to be the best version of themselves. But it's so much bigger than me. You alluded to Gavin. I mean, Gavin's just been so clutch for us. He's so great with the recruiting and helping young men find a home after high school. But beyond that, I mean, we've got Coach Fry and Bratcher, guys in the area that have 40 plus years of varsity experience. We've got Ryan Langerhans and Brian Gordon and Ryan Ludwig and all these guys and men who didn't play professional baseball, but are just awesome men that love to coach and pour into them. And that's what it's about. It's about each coach that gives a great experience. And I just am fortunate to be a part of it. I just happened to be in the right place when Coach Gordon and I took a leap of faith and started it. Yeah. So other than that, I mean, it's obviously way bigger than me. And what I get out of it selfishly is I get filled up. My cup gets filled up when I go battle on the weekend with these guys, or I see them, sign to go play college or get drafted, or just shoot me a text going, "Hey coach, miss you. Here's what I'm doing." And it's great. Lights me up, man. And I get emotional when I see them. I just love the young men. I mean, there's a lot of things that come with it. It's a business, which I hate even saying and hearing, but it is. But at the end of the day, for me, it's all about that relationship and that connection with those young men. And, I think a lot of them will be lifetime connections. Yes. I really do. And, at the end of the day, it's just one of those God things where you're like, okay, we'll start a team or two, or we'll try this. I don't know. We've heard, from others that they're not having a great experience. Maybe we can offer something more positive or something better. And we're certainly not the only game in town. But at the end of the day, when we just stay focused on GPS, which started out as Gordon Puffer Select and kind of morphed into God Provides Strength. And then we merged with a youth program, the Legends and Matt Hargrove. Wow. And now we're the GPS Legends. And all I see is families and kids that we're able to impact positively. That's our goal. Doesn't always happen. Again, we're not perfect either. But at the end of the day, I think we do, and again, just goes to our coaches, not me, do a great job of really pouring into those kids. And again, helping them become better ball players, of course, but hopefully better men, because they're going to be men a lot longer than they're going to be ball players.
Yeah. And we all needed that at that age. Just let's be honest with ourselves. We needed. I lost my father at a young, age a week before I turned 13. So people like you and mainly football coaches, I needed them.
Yeah.
I needed them to discipline me.
Absolutely.
And thank God for coaches.
Yeah, man.
Period.
It's a huge, to be called a coach, Sean, is a huge honor, huge responsibility. We don't take it lightly. We really don't. And we've got a lot of young men that are in your situation for various reasons, fatherless or tough home situations. And man, when you can just get a young man like that to be encouraged, help them through their journey, it's huge. It is. I mean, you said it. I mean, selfishly, I think I get more out of it than any of they do, because I just get so excited, man, to see them do something positive or again, just sometimes I'll get a little glimpse with a note or a text message, or there's nothing like, a post-game hug. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. And it's not lip service, man. We love those young men. We really do.
That speaks volumes. It speaks volumes of who you are. And I really would love for people to get a copy of this and get a closer look at the book right here as we pull this graphic up. And this is obviously old school photo of our guy here, Brandon Puffer. And this is, we mentioned Amazon, but what's the easiest? How would you, if someone said, what's the easiest way to purchase a copy of your book?
Well, it truly is Amazon. We're published on KDP through Amazon, but BrandonPuffer.com. You can order right from my site, and it takes you to my social media and all that stuff as well. And it's really cool graphic, man. That's right next to me right now. And the way we came up with that cover, the artists and the marketers came up with a different cover, and I just that's not what I had in mind. And we looked at that. I have a picture. It's still broken. It's here. Let me show you. Like you said, we're visual, brother.
At the ready.
Oh shoot! Hey,
this is perfect.
Aren't we all broken?
We are. That describes us. Our live visit. We're all broken.
We're all broken, brother. And so that picture got broke in a move, but I just put it up anyway. And I'm like, I'm not going to fix it, because that depicts exactly what we're trying to say. It's like, yeah, there I was pitching for the Astros, and this glass broke, just like your life can, and choices. And man, that was a perfect metaphor for our life being broken. And that's how the cover came about, is literally looking at that picture and going, that's exactly what we're trying to get across, is that I'm not fixing that to try to make it perfect, because it never was and it never will be. It's just a broken frame and a guy, behind it. That was the picture of, like you said, an old school photo of achieving a dream.
Symbolic, but I love this word, and it can't be overused, because rarely, if ever, but that was profound. Symbolic and profound. And the fact that you kept it with that broken glass in that frame, that's strong to me. Yeah. And it should be to everyone who's watching or seeing this, or visit you and ask you, your frame, the glass is broken? Well, there's a reason behind that.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's how that cover came about, man. That very picture that I even broke more now as I tried to show it to you.
Yeah. Hey, get a pair of gloves before you piece that together.
Yeah, I got some cleaning up to do when we're done.
That was not staged, folks. That was legit.
Yep.
So go to Amazon. It's pretty simple. You just type in Brandon Puffer or From the Bullpen to the State Pen and purchase your copy. Not coffee.
Well, you're going to need some coffee to read through that thing in one sitting.
Oh, there's no way. You need a couple of cups. And honestly, it's I'm not going to go overboard and say life-changing, but it will affect you if you dive into it and realize it's okay to be broken and accept who you are and move on, because I think we all can relate in some form or fashion. The one thing, how we like to end these first segments, is there a man cave story? By the way, brought to you by Jim Saxton, State Farm Insurance Agency. He is our top OG, meaning he was there since day one. Been insuring Austin for well over 3 decades, as well as his late father, the James Saxton, who was a Heisman finalist for the Texas Longhorns way back in the early 60s for Darrell K. Royal. Is there a man cave story that's embedded within the book that maybe it could be humorous, comical, or something a story within the book that you just love telling people?
Man, some of my favorite stories, Sean. One is my big league debut story. I enjoy that. Have I shared that with you already?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'll share that one. There's another one there's a more humorous one that I like to share, but man, my big league debut story, and I do allude to it in the book. It's like storybook, man. It really is. It's one of those situations where I was in Cincinnati with the Houston Astros, and they called my name. You know, it's one thing to get there and you're sitting in the bullpen, kind of soaking it all in and looking around the locker room, but then it's at some point you've got to earn your keep and go to work. And so 7-2 game. We're up against Cincinnati in the old stadium, and they gave me the ninth inning, and I came in, and the backstory is Jimmy Williams, and I've shared this a few times, but not everybody's heard it. Old school manager said in spring training, he said, listen, guys, if I come out to talk to you, no words. I'm only coming out to not talk to you, but to pull you out. If I want someone to talk to you, I'm going to send Bert Hooten, our pitching coach. So I remembered that. It was like Jimmy was trying to avoid those situations where the pitcher's competitive and tries to get an argument on the mound, you know, that kind of thing. And so as a rookie, I'm going to follow all the rules. And so I get out there, man, I face my first hitter, Todd Walker, strike him out thinking this is easy, right? And then get another guy out. Too easy. Up 7-2. Guy gets on. Barry Larkin hits a double. I smoke Jason LaRue in the back, who we're buddies now to this day. And now they're a couple swings away from tying this thing up. And so Billy Wagner's getting warm in the bullpen, and he's getting hot quick, and I can hear it. It's like a cannon going off in that glove. The dude threw hard, right? And so I'm thinking, oh man, I gotta get out of this. Well, here comes Jimmy Williams, and I'm like, I remember exactly what he said. Like when he comes out, he's pulling you. So I went to hand him the ball, and he said, no, wait a minute, Puff. Wait a minute. I said, okay. And he goes, hey, well, this is your major league debut, right? Yes, sir. He said, you got family in town. You got some calls to make after this thing. You know, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, a couple people flew in, last minute. I'll call the rest of them. We'll go over it. But, yeah. And he goes, okay. And I'm hungry. He goes, are you hungry? He goes, I bet your family's hungry. He goes, you're going to go to a restaurant? You're going to eat in a clubhouse? What are you going to do? I said, well, I guess I'll probably get a little snack in the clubhouse and then take my family to dinner. He goes, all right. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. Let's get this last out because I'm hungry. I'm sure your family's hungry, and we want to eat. And he walked off. And I'm like, man, I went from tense and, oh, my gosh, they're one swing away and all these negative thoughts to, dude, I'm still in the game. Awesome. And I got the next guy out and, get to shake hands in the line and do all that. But it just was like, to me, it was beautiful. Just a story of a veteran manager that knew how fast this thing was going in my head right now. And to come out and slow things down was just perfect. Just absolutely perfect. So that's one of my favorites.
I love it because he told you, he said we're not going to have a conversation, but that's knowing the situation, knowing what situation you were in. Right. And he realized you were that close to ending the game, so to speak. And that I think we all need a manager to put their hand on our shoulders every now and then in the game of life. I really do.
Absolutely.
I really do. Hey, we're going to take a quick break because second segment's really fast, and so is this break. And Brandon alluded to it, but how this next segment opens is another big time, a life moment. That's coming up after this short break.
Hi, I'm Stevie Lee, former defensive tackle for the University of Texas.
And I'm Clyde Hargrove. I'm a roofer.
I also saw action in 52 games.
And I fix a lot of roofs.
Also won a Rose Bowl and never lost to A&M.
And I fixed a lot of roofs, right, Stevie?
Oh, right. I'm sorry, I zoned out a little bit.
So are you going to say that thing about Hargrove Roofing?
Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof.
Is this even going to work as a commercial?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's okay. Oh my goodness.
Man.
Yes.
Wow. That was
dude. You nailed it, man. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
First of all, the backdrop, where is that? That was perfect.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on that. So that is a mile away from the house I grew up in Mission Viejo, California, Orange County. And man, every time I rode to the Little League Park, every time we drove by, that's on Alicia, and you drive by and you look to your left and it's a view of Lake Mission Viejo with the Saddleback Mountains in the background. And so that has always been my favorite view. And so no better place to do a proposal to Yvette, and what a great reaction. Just pure joy. We love that video, man. I'm so glad you included that.
I am too. I'm glad that you sent it to me, because I was like, you know what? I know he sent it to me, but if he sent it to me, surely he wouldn't mind if I use it in the podcast. So it worked out for the best. Congrats.
Thank you, brother.
Man.
I appreciate that.
That is a most picturesque. That background was perfect. It was made for proposals.
Yes. No, not only just the look of it, but the meaning to me of always through my childhood. Like to this day, my mom runs that lake. She's a runner. And so she runs around that lake, and she always sends me pictures. Here's your spot. Here's your view. And it's just always been so meaningful and special to me. So even more so now, obviously.
It's too bad the book's already published. You could have added another chapter to it.
Yeah, could have.
Brandon Puffer, the author of From the Bullpen to the State Pen. And hey, you saw it in middle break, segment 2 here. This is going to be a quick segment brought to you by Hargrove Roofing, based out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Big Stevie Lee, who we do the pass rush with every other week. Hargrove's, Stevie Lee's from Shreveport, got choked up over it. Yeah. And their big slogan is, and they did Mama Clinch's roof, by the way, tremendous, efficient, and their slogan, know who's on your roof, is straight to the core of what they do. You literally know who's on your roof, and they do everything imaginable as far as communication, and that homeowners insurance, they do all the communication for you. I didn't know that's how it worked, but apparently they do a fabulous job at that. Real quick, your takes. Major League Baseball spring trainings are soon to begin. Do you still, to this day, is there a void in you at all, or do you still get a little excited this time of year? Because I know pitchers and catchers report soon.
Yeah.
Do you still, because when you're programmed for so long, you train for something and you're not doing it. I know every retired athlete, they mention it. Do you still have that feeling this time of year?
I do, in terms of the excitement.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see it happen. But in terms of getting that, like, which it did happen, took a few years, but in terms of like, man, I wish I was going. I guess you just get old enough, or your body hurts enough to where you're like, no, I don't get that feeling anymore. And I'm also just so filled up with what I'm doing now in my life that I don't have any thoughts of envy or I wish I was there anymore. No. It's just simply, and I'm also getting to that age where a lot of my buddies are coaches now, or the tail end of their career. They're making it to the big leagues as coaches, and that's really fun. It's not uncommon to be watching a game and not realize that one of my former teammates is now the pitching coach for whoever, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So I just get excited to watch. I'm a true fan. I always have been before I ever had an opportunity to make it. So get excited to watch it for sure, but no more of that nudge of like, what if I could still do it? Jamie Moore, Nolan Ryan, those guys, more power to them. But at 47 now, I'm like, nope, I've got that out of my system.
If you were to, now I'm just going to go, I'm very biased toward my professional teams on this podcast, even though I'm pretty objective and speak from objective point of view with everyone else. But it's no secret, I love the Cowboys and football. I'm still a little heartbroken from that. But I am a Rangers fan, and I honestly feel like the Rangers really made some big moves. Obviously, last year, the big move, I thought they overpaid, but they needed that piece.
Yeah.
Now they've added some pitching, which has been very hard to come by in Arlington, but now they have the retractable roof stadium, I think year 3. Yeah. Do you see the Rangers? We know the Astros are still going to be contending for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
The champions. But do you think the Rangers have made a significant enough step where they can contend for a playoff spot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only from the big name pieces they put in the rotation, I think that's phenomenal. And I mean, that speaks for itself, but who's going to be leading those guys? And Mr. Maddox, and veteran manager presence now. I think that more than anything is what's going to tie that all together. So great to see that, them spend some money and make some moves. That's awesome. But then you put the right leadership, and nothing against the leadership they've had by any means. I mean, they've had some great men leading over there, but it's just now you've got like the best of the best. And I've been real fortunate to have a lot of pitching coaches over the years, and Mike Maddox was top top 2, easily top 2. And so what he does for the pitching minds, not only with those veterans, but then the youngsters coming through, you got the right guys that are going to mesh all that together. And I think they're going to contend, and it's going to be pretty darn fun to watch. I'm a Dodgers fan. I grew up in California. I can't claim to be a Rangers fan or even an Astros fan after I played for them. I pull for them.
Yeah.
Fan outside looking in, it's been like, whoa, the Rangers, they mean business.
I think so. I'm hoping for like 8 to 12 games over 500.
Okay.
That's baby steps. Baby step for some would be 500.
Yeah.
Baseball. Which is probably what it will happen. But I think they're not making that type of investment to go 500.
I agree. I think they're going for it. And again, I know I'm reiterating. It's like when I saw the players, I was like, wow. And then I saw the manager and the pitching coach change. And I was like, okay, they're putting it all together. Like they're really going for this thing. So it's exciting.
It is. For you young bucks out there watching or listening, Mike Maddox, or Greg Maddox, excuse me, YouTube that and look at those amazing pitching staffs he was a part of with the Atlanta Braves.
Yes.
And to this day, I think they didn't choke, but that was phenomenal baseball back in the 90s. And did they start in the late 80s? I can't remember.
It might have been late 80s with Maddox, Smoltz, and James Avery.
James
the
Avery.
Jewelry guy. Yeah. He was getting everybody in the locker room right with their jewelry. No, Steve Avery. They had those the three-headed monster was awesome and fun to watch. And so, just again, bringing Mike Maddox into the fold. Remember here in Round Rock, he was our pitching coach when it was AA back in 2000, 2001. And what a wealth of knowledge. I mean, obviously his brother is, speaks for himself, the career he had. Mike had a good career as well. But in terms of translating information, knowing your staff, pulling everybody together, Mike's just one of a kind. I mean, he is phenomenal. And so very excited for him and the Rangers for what they're going to do. I
can't wait. Cannot wait. It's just an exciting time of year and even for college, but that's a whole nother podcast. So what we like to do here, TikToking the Man Cave, we know TikTok can be a random assortment. It's like a box of chocolates. I'm not going to go Forrest Gump on you, but I kept it clean this episode. You find some random things and you find some beneficial things. This just so happens to involve my alma mater, Stephen F. Austin. They're up there, they're at Grand Canyon University. They're going through a shoot around, and one of their post players getting after it, dancing. Well, watch their head coach, who I'm a big fan of. Watch, he's trying to relate with his players, so to speak. A player's coach.
That's a player's coach. A little rhythmically challenged, if I will.
Very much. Very Caucasian.
Yes, extremely. Had the hood on, trying to maybe imposter someone else, but you got to love that, man. Hey, part of it, Sean, is not taking yourself too seriously, man. You know what I mean? I coach 17-year-olds. They're always going, Coach, do you see this? Can you do that? Trying to get you in with the lingo. And
right.
I love it, man. You do have to relate to them a little bit. So that's fun, man. I love that. Really cool.
I love it, man. It's you've got to have a good time. Life is too short to be serious and uptight.
Absolutely.
And you know how it is. You work or play or perform better when you're relaxed and loose.
Absolutely.
And that's the way life should be. And this is how you remember, we like to end these episodes with a ton of positivity.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
Puff Daddy, I lied. We've gone way past the time allotted that I told you. I think it's because you and I talk a lot, and that's good. I don't have a problem with it. You have a great story. What have you seen lately? It could be with your book recently, feedback from it, or in your life, that if you ask the rest of the world, if you go on Twitter, you think there's nothing but negativity in this world. But tell me something good that you'd like to pass along to maybe inspire or uplift people in the world.
Yeah, that's great, man. I love to end this thing on some positivity. I mean, I'm Coach Puff positive, right? We've got to have some positivity in this thing. I think to your point, if you just looked at social media or the media in general, it just looks like the sky is always falling.
Always.
I mean, doesn't it? And so I personally try to avoid it at all costs. I mean, it's good to be in the know and informed, but when you walk this thing out day to day, humanity, and I hope you see the same thing. You know, yes, people are going through stuff, and so not everybody's looking to be encouraging or be positive, but there are so many that are. And if you're really intentional about locking in on those folks, like I'm on Twitter. I don't do a whole lot of social media, but when I'm on Twitter, I just keep liking or retweeting the ones that speak positivity. And now what happens? My algorithm or my thread just keeps pouring in more. And I see the same thing in life, man. If you're putting it out and you're smiling and you're encouraging people, I mean, it could just be a hello. You start getting it back, you know. At the gym, I'm always trying to smile and say hello and be encouraging. And first people are kind of like, wait a minute, who's this guy? And then eventually they're like, oh, that's just you every day. Hi, you know, smile, whatever. And so whatever you're putting out, I really feel like for the most part, you're getting it back. And again, I just use that analogy of the algorithm in Twitter. It's like, sure, if I want negativity, it's all over the place. And you see people fighting and going back and forth. And I'm like, why? Why, man? Why would you do that? So that's not me. So for me, it's like, let me keep following the ones that encourage me. And there's plenty of them, man. There's coaches. I've connected with folks randomly in DMs on Twitter, just going, hey, man, I love your content. You're encouraging me every day. And they're like, thanks, man, you too. And now you're making a connection with someone positive because you're putting positivity out. So what you put out usually comes back to you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I believe in karma. It's not so much superstition. It's like I do believe in you surround yourself with the people with whom the environment you want to be a part of. Absolutely. And consistency is everything. And that message right there is another reason why people need to get a copy From the Bullpen to the State Pen. It's a story which, when you see the title, you think nothing but negativity. Well, there's always some form of negativity in our lives, but this is a tool, an avenue or vehicle, that takes you out of adversity to meet destiny and also where we belong. Yeah. With good spirit and good energy. And Puff, man, I love this. I wish we could do this more often. And it's well worth it, man. This is always fun when we are able to either talk in person or get together for an episode.
Oh, man, I love it, Sean, man. Honestly, I love you, brother. You've always been a rock as a friend. I appreciate your positivity, your encouragement that you send my way often. Not everybody knows that we had to reset this 3 or 4 times because the power went out and the ice storm, and we were persistent, man. And I'm glad we made it happen because, to your point, I just love we said it before we even did it. I'm like, man, this doesn't feel like a podcast. It feels like just hanging out with my boy.
Is this recording it without a camera watching every move? Just make sure we don't pick our nose or something like that, you know.
That's the key. Yeah, that's the key. But you can edit it.
Yeah, you always edit this. Yeah.
No, man, I do. I appreciate you, brother. And I really do hope that somebody's encouraged from this podcast when it comes out. I really do.
I do too. And we all need it. Let's be honest with each other and everyone watching. We all need some encouragement. Yeah, we do. Pretty often from every time of our lives, probably weekly, sometimes daily. And Definitely. For some, it's okay to admit, hey, I need help. Yep. It's okay. It's okay.
Absolutely. What you'll find out when you admit that is you're not the only one. You're not alone. You feel alone in your thoughts. But once it loses power and you voice it and you let somebody know, everyone's going to be like, oh, you too? Man, welcome. Join the club. Come on, let's encourage each other because iron sharpens iron.
That's well stated. Puff Daddy, I love you, brother.
I love you too, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And get a copy From the Bullpen to State Pen. It is inspirational. It's interesting. It's fascinating. It is inspiring, and it's well worth it because you just got a small glimpse of what it's about. This should, it's you need something to turn your life around, hopefully, or just a good read in general. That's it. So for now, the 2-time VIP guest of Stories Inside the Man Cave podcast and the OG Man Caves themselves, that being Hardball Harge, Big Mike, and Coach Mo.
Yeah.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.